You ready? Okay, we're rolling.
Is my hair okay? Oh.
I don't think we
I
have a
just
chance yet.
I thought I better say it just for Andy. Andy, you out there
I,
listening? My hair is okay.
all right, Larry, if you're okay with your hair, then we're okay with your
Okay. I'm okay with my hair, but I don't know about Andy. He's okay with his. He had bedhead. Anyway, okay. So anyway, today we're talking a bit about the seven cardinal areas that we chose. And in native country, there's always seven or four, and numbers play a big place in philosophy and values and the life of native people. And you think of four, you think of the four seasons, and you think of the four elements of the earth, the four orders of the earth, the four stages of development, infancy, teenagehood, adulthood, and elderhood. Always there are numbers, and seven is a common number because there are like seven grandfathers, seven teachings. In the lodge, we talk about the seven all the time, and uh, sure we talk about the directions. We talk about the cardinal areas of Wabanung, Shawanung, Ningabinung, Kiwedinung, the four cardinal areas, and then the above, um, and then below, and uh, and then there's another one just above um, the earth, which is called Ishpaming Manidunagan. Is it the head spirit above the earth, which is it's like a invisible conduit that only dwells where it only dwells there because of the thunderbird, and is the incarnate kind of the magical part where the ego hears your prayer, and uh, and from that physicalness transform Ishpaming to the thunderbird, which is the incarnate of the ego, and then flies and touches Creator's world and takes our prayers, our concepts, and our ideas. And so it eventually ends up to be seven. And then there's the covering, of course, of the earth, and it's called Mishoma's grandfather. And then Chananawa Kamig inside the earth, underneath the core of the earth. So there's two elements of the earth, not just the top, but there's one inside. And there's all activity and beauty happening within that realm. And the seven were chosen because it is a sacred number. And when you talk about honesty, humility, love, those again are the teachings, the seven teachings of Grandfather. But then there are several cardinal areas of the earth or of the universe, and uh, and so when we're talking about the seven, we're talking about something that's really important. That every aspect, every cosmological phase of this existence can be touched by the seven. And so when we talk about the seven teachings, now are we talking about the seven teachings of Grandfather, or are we talking about the seven cardinals of the world, of the universe, the cosmology? And in this place, we're talking about the cosmology. We're talking about touching every single phase of our existence. And that's what seven is all about. Every phase of our existence is touched. And the difference between seven grandfathers and the phase is that seven grandfathers are specific when you want to talk about love or humility or honesty. You talk about those things, those are teachings. But then the other phase, which means uh, an invisible force, and always in telling any story, there has to be a metaphysical part of something, an invisible, spiritual, strengthening force that you cannot see and you cannot touch, but you know it exists. And that is the seven. And what is Wabanung? Have you ever seen Wabanung? Well, no, but I know where it is and I know it exists, you know? And it's an invisible, powerful force that helps me live and helps me survive. But it gives me gifts. And in that way, I'm thanking Wabanung for saying that. And so the seven phases are different than the seven teachings. Seven phases touches every existence of our being. And I think what we need to consider, continue always to remember, is that when you are in existence anywhere, you have to find out where you are. And it reminds me of the story when Dr. Carl Hammerslag was talking to this old Indian man, Santiago, in his book, The Dancing Healers. And this old man said to him, "Are you a doctor or are you a healer?" And of course, Hammerslag says, "Well, I'd like to think I'm both." He said, I'm an MD, I'm a physician. That makes me a healer. And the old man said, no, that makes you a doctor. You can examine somebody, analyze what they have, and then prescribe pharmaceuticals to help them. That's what a doctor does. And Hammerslag said, yes, that's what I do. Isn't that a healer? And he said, no. He said, a healer does all what you do, examine them and give them not pharmaceuticals, but gives them elements of the earth to heal them. But a healer also tells the people where they fit in the universe. And therein lies that phase I was talking about. Where do you fit in the universe? In the cosmological view of this existence, where do we fit? When you analyze the seven, you'll understand where you fit. And you'll have a place, and a place to begin. And otherwise you feel so innate, and so you don't feel like you exist or you belong or you have a family or you have somebody that cares, and all of that is wrong. Of course you have a family. Of course you fit. And the seven teachings put you in that position and let you know where you're going and where you've been and where it's possible to go. And so this whole thing here, the seven, is important for people to know. Wabanung, Shawanung, Ningaban, and Kuidna. They're all invisible forces that guard and guide us. But we are supposed to understand as a human that there are invisible forces that we cannot control, but are controlled by another phase of existence that we don't quite understand. And I don't know that anybody in the universe totally understands Get Your Money Do, Get Your Money Do, Wekantanka, or God. I don't think anyone can explain that. And if they do, I'll probably run the other direction because I don't know that it needs to be explained. We call it the great mystery, Get Your Money Do, that has so much spirit that it gives it to each and everything and endlessly has more. When you run out of power, when you run out of strength, when you run out of love, when you run out of balance, when you run out of things in your life that are of human need, you look to the Creator and He gives you more, and endlessly more. And it's a non-physical place. It's a metaphysical place. And I think what I want to say to the seven is that there are invisible forces that guard and guide us. And that's what the seven is about. It's about those invisible places that we know exist, that can help us. We don't know where they get their nucleus from, per se, because we really can't explain God. We only know that God Gets Your Money to Wekantanka, or Deus, however we call the all-container, that there is this force that has enough energy and enough love and enough strength to give it to us when we need it. But we have to know how to ask. And what the seven is for is how to ask and where to go. And so when you go to the west or to the east, it's something new. When you go to the south, it's something warm and healing. And to the west, it's a little of Creator's power, but a little sadness and sorrow too. And then to the north, it's cleansing and purification. And it's not like we can understand and articulate cleansing and purification per se. We can say, well, I'm cleansed, I'm purified. Does that mean your body, your clothes, your mind? Well, it means all of that. And some of it is metaphysical. And so if I was to define the seven, it is a metaphysical place where exists for us to gain our power and our strength and our direction. And that's what the seven is about. And you can't touch it as much as you can feel it and sense it by prayer and concept and idea. And nor should you bottle it up and put it in a box or a container of any kind. It's something that dwells within your heart, within your soul spirit, that you cannot see either. But you know it exists. It's something that's motivating and powerful and can energize you to do certain things. So when we are talking about the seven, we're talking about a metaphysical place that exists for all of us. And so we have a sense of understanding the total cosmological universe and where we fit in this and how we can articulate that within ourselves to feel at home, to feel a family, and to feel where we can gain strength and wisdom and knowledge from without asking anybody or looking up in a book or look on the website. We can ask within ourselves, look up in the sky, and there exists a metaphysical force that you can understand. That's the interpretation of the seven, and that's what the seven is about. And I want people to know that, you know, and there's always these numbers, and we have to sometimes explain them. But I want to take time to say that today, that the seven exists that we cannot see, we cannot touch, but we can feel and sense and understand, that we gain help and wisdom and guidance from, and protection that we cannot see. It's almost like a psychological protection that we can sense and feel like, I did this one thing now, so I'm okay, I'm protected. And you're right, you are. And if you feel that way, then you are that way. And so that's the seven, and that's why we chose the seven areas and cardinal areas of the universe. And that's why that exists, and it exists not only for you and I, but it exists for everyone. The two that I want to mention, though, that probably people will find a hard time understanding. Animals and children see these things more clearly than we do in adulthood. And it's like when a child gazes off, staring into the sunset or staring out into the lake or staring outside in a fixed vision. Is hearing something invisible, seeing something invisible, touching something invisible. As an animal too, you ever see a dog or a cat look out and just look on the lake or look out in the woods and wonder, what are they seeing that I cannot see? And it's that invisible force. And children and animals have a more in tune, sensitized feeling about that than we do. When we get a certain age, we don't believe in magic anymore. And I think animals, dogs, children, I don't think they ever quit believing. And when we quit being a child, magic stops for a lot of us. I'm a weird cat. It has never stopped for me. I believe in magic. And you can call me a fool. It's okay. Jim Jackson was a fool, and he believed in magic. And he said, if you want to join us, he said, you can join us. We're two fools, he said, Larry and I. But he said, it's easy to teach a fool things. It's hard to teach someone who knows everything, anything. And I understood from then on, it's okay to be foolish and childlike and have this invisible force around me and understand it. And I think that's what the seven is about. It's something you can't touch, but you know it's there. And the seven cardinal areas of the world are chosen for that reason. The seven teachings, you can talk about love, honesty, faith, bravery, like that. Sure you can. But the seven is that invisible metaphysical force that exists. And sometimes it doesn't need explanation, but if you need to have it explained to you, that's why I did this today. I did this piece today so that you could understand what the seven is about. Ikende mana. Ja.